I was young and a young teenager, I was very spiritually oriented, okay? I just thought I like to say I was 13 going on 80, because I was very serious about a lot of things, and I just started to think about, you know, my life and my existence and the existence of humanity and what were we doing here and what was the purpose of it all. And I began to think about the cosmic context of my existence and the earth, and so what is out there anyway, and that got me turned onto astronomy. But I did have this experience when a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, she lived only a few blocks away from me in the Bronx. Now mind you, in the Bronx you can't see a whole hell of a lot when you look up, right? So she got a telescope, and we took her telescope onto her roof and we found Saturn. And that does it for everybody, doesn't it? It was like my first cosmic connection. We saw Saturn in a telescope with its rings. It's such a supernatural looking object that you just feel like, wow, I've stumbled onto something really, really big here. And you feel like you discovered it yourself. And in some ways you have. You've discovered it for yourself. It certainly gave me a real connection to the subject and made me want to learn more. So I studied astronomy in college, and then after that I knew that I wanted to focus in on the study of planets. So I knew we were in the process of going to the planets, right? I mean, we'd already been to Mars and Venus, and I knew I wanted to be part of that.
An outer space spectacular that was the stuff of dreams only a generation ago began snapping into the sharp focus of reality today. After its billion-mile journey from Earth, the Voyager 1 spacecraft sent back pictures of man's closest look yet at the ring planet Saturn. The closest encounter of spacecraft and planet occurs later tonight when Voyager sails just 77,000 miles from Saturn's yellow clouds. But already one scientist said, in the strange world of Saturn's rings, the bizarre has become commonplace.
Well, one of the things that Voyager found at Saturn, and there was a lot of things we found at Saturn because we'd never been there before with really good equipment, were these very mysterious dark markings on the rings that were transient. They came and went. They looked like they were rotating around with the rings. Pretty soon people figured out they must be tiny particles because it was obvious from the way they scattered light, but no one knew where they came from, why they were there, and so on. And so everybody was madly trying to do things, and I was just a young graduate student. There weren't enough people to study everything we found. So this pretty nice topic just fell in my lap. I just took the initiative to go through the images and look at the spokes, try to understand, figure out something about them, and I just worked away on my own and then came to the realization. I found that they were connected to the magnetic field, and that was one of those moments. I'm just a young, investigator. It was one of those moments when I thought, my God, they're related to the magnetic field, and nobody else knows this on the planet but me, And it was just a great feeling. I love knowledge. To me, knowledge is power. It's so empowering to know the truth and to really understand something. Boy, when you come to study something and you come to understand it, even if it's just a little discovery that you make and you come to understand it on your own, it's like the greatest high. It's like you just have found some incredibly secretive thing about nature. And if it's a result of your own research and you haven't told anybody yet, there's a period of time where you're like floating because it's something you know and nobody else knows. And so there's a period where, like I said, you just feel powerful. Okay, I became a tried and true, really hardworking young investigator on the Voyager imaging team. And eventually I worked myself up to be the leader of the rings working group for the Neptune encounter. It was a defining experience for me, and I remember after that was over, I just had this feeling like I want to go back. I want to go back. And so right after that, they issued an announcement of opportunity for anyone who wanted to apply to be part of the Cassini mission, and I was thank God, I was very audacious. And I thought, I'm not going to just be on the imaging team, I'm going to lead the imaging team. And I applied to be the leader, and I had some stiff competition, and I won. And like they say, the rest is history. So I just found myself in this very, very privileged position of being kind of like the captain of the ship, you know, looking out the window and seeing all the sights, because that's kind of what the imaging team does. They're the ones who are manning the windows, if you will. And I was the person put in charge of organizing and conducting the whole experiment that we were going to conduct through our imaging when we got to Saturn. First images of the rings, the close-ups, came during the maneuver where we were flying across the rings, very close to the rings, to get into orbit. This is when we kind of threw the main engines in reverse, so to speak. We fired the main engines to slow the acceleration of the spacecraft down so we could get into orbit. And once we were in orbit, the main engines turned off. That's when the project allowed us to take the spacecraft, turn the remote sensing instruments down to look at the rings, and we collected a series of images that are still to this day the highest resolution images we collected because we were so close to the rings. And I was stunned at how sharp and detailed and clear these images were. We saw the edge waves and the inky gap just sticking out like crazy. I mean, you could see it easily. That was the one picture where I said that I thought my team members were pulling a trick on me, because I was over in one building at JPL with everybody else getting ready for the press conference. My team members sent me some pictures, and I bring them up on the screen, and I thought, okay, this is somebody's computer simulation, and they're playing a trick on me. They just think this is a big joke, that I'm going to get up and show this, and it's not a real picture. So I call over to building 264, where everybody was. I called 3 times, and I said, are you sure this isn't a computer simulation? It just doesn't look real. Come on, did you guys play a trick on me? No, it's a real picture. So suffice it to say, we were blown away. There were lots of things we discovered in the ring pictures then and since, and it's been like that with Cassini. It's almost like never-ending news. I keep saying it's been like a major exploratory expedition that humanity is presently conducting around Saturn. And we've come to know this planetary system that is 10 times farther from the sun than the Earth, okay? And we've come to know it intimately. And the best way I could underscore to, the uninformed or the layperson as to how far we've come, all they have to do is take a telescope like the one you looked through when I was a teenager on the roof of my friend's house, and look at Saturn, and then go look on our website at one of our pictures. And that's how far we've come. I came from humble beginnings. My parents were immigrants from Italy. I grew up in the Bronx. You know, I had no rhyme or reason to be expecting I'd be doing this, but here I get selected to lead a team of scientists on one of humanity's greatest adventures to this phenomenally beautiful place. So I feel like I have lived my life at Saturn. And so it's just an enormous thrill and a privilege to have been part of it, and to know when I die, I know I've done like the coolest thing anybody could possibly do with their life. That's how I feel about it.